You might want to pay very close attention to what just happened with Angel Reese because this doesn't feel like a normal post-game moment anymore. Not even close. At first, everybody thought the story was simple. Huge defensive play, game-saving block, crowd going crazy, viral reactions everywhere. But then fans started noticing something else. The energy afterward felt different. Because instead of just celebrating the win, Angel Reese seemingly sent a message that instantly had people connecting dots around the entire Chicago Sky situation. And trust me, once social media picked up on it, things escalated fast. Because now fans aren't only talking about the block anymore. They're asking whether Angel was quietly taking a shot at her own team, why certain reactions around the moment suddenly felt awkward, and why people connected to the Sky seem way quieter than expected after a game-winning moment that should have had everybody celebrating loudly. That's the part making this whole thing feel strange. Because usually when a player delivers a huge clutch moment like this, the narrative stays positive. But this time, the internet immediately turned investigative. People started replaying clips, analyzing body language, reading comments differently, and trying to figure out whether there's something building behind the scenes that fans weren't supposed to notice yet. Because honestly, the timing of all this feels way too perfect to ignore. Angel Reese was already under massive pressure. The Chicago Sky were already sitting under non-stop attention. And now suddenly, after one huge block changes the game, the conversation somehow shifts away from the win itself and straight toward tension, reactions, and possible hidden frustration inside the team. And once fans started feeling that shift, everything got a whole lot more intense. And once the internet started feeling that tension, the entire conversation around Angel Reese changed almost overnight. Because suddenly, this wasn't only about a clutch defensive play anymore. It became about what the moment might have revealed underneath the surface. Because here's the thing people can't stop talking about right now. Angel Reese didn't just make a huge block. She made it at a moment where pressure around the Chicago Sky was already building from every direction possible. The expectations, the criticism, the non-stop comparisons, the constant headlines surrounding chemistry, leadership, and frustration inside the team. All of that was already sitting there before this game even started. Which is exactly why fans reacted so strongly afterward. Because once Angel made that game-saving play, people expected celebration, excitement, teammates going crazy, social media exploding positively around the Sky, finally pulling off a huge moment. But instead, the reactions online instantly became more focused on Angel herself than the actual team win. And trust me, that detail matters way more than people realize. Because in sports, when fans start separating a star player emotionally from the team itself, it usually means they believe something deeper is happening behind the scenes. And honestly, that's exactly the energy surrounding this situation right now. People are watching Angel differently, watching her reactions differently, watching interviews differently. Even the way she carries herself after games suddenly feels more important than before. Because fans think there's frustration underneath the surface now. Not obvious public drama. Not screaming matches. Just tension. The kind that slowly builds when expectations around a team stop matching reality on the court. And the Chicago Sky have been living inside that pressure all season. Because let's be honest, this team was never supposed to become one of the most dissected situations in the WNBA this quickly. But once Angel Reese entered the league carrying one of the biggest spotlights women's basketball has seen in years, everything around the Sky changed immediately. Every game became content. Every reaction became debate material. Every clip became another reason for social media to pick sides. And once that happens, pressure starts multiplying faster than organizations can control it. That's why this latest viral moment feels so different from normal sports highlights. Because people aren't only reacting emotionally to the block itself. They're reacting to what they think it represents. Some fans believe Angel Reese is quietly becoming bigger than the team around her. Others think the frustration around the Chicago Sky situation is finally starting to show publicly in small ways people ignored before. And then there's another group watching the situation completely differently. They think Angel knows exactly what she's doing. They think she understands how powerful moments like this become online. How one reaction, one post-game comment, or one social media post can completely shift public conversation overnight. And honestly, that possibility is exactly why the internet exploded afterward. Because now people are trying to figure out intent. Was it just emotion after a huge play? Was it indirect frustration? Was it confidence? Or was it something even deeper that fans haven't fully caught onto yet? And once sports fans start asking questions like that, situations become impossible to slow down afterward. Especially in today's social media era, where every tiny moment gets replayed thousands of times within minutes. Because now people aren't just watching basketball anymore. They're studying behavior, looking for clues, searching for signs of chemistry issues, leadership tension, or hidden frustration behind the scenes. And the wild part? Sometimes the speculation itself becomes bigger than the actual truth. Because once a narrative starts growing online, fans begin connecting dots everywhere whether the evidence exists or not. One facial expression becomes a theory. One quiet interview becomes proof. One social media interaction suddenly turns into evidence that something inside the team feels off. And right now, that exact thing is happening around Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky. Because fans already came into this season emotionally invested in her journey before she even played a game. They expected dominance, attention, viral moments, headline energy every night. And when reality became more complicated than people expected, the reactions around the team became emotional very quickly. That's why this latest moment exploded so hard online. Because for a lot of fans, the huge block felt symbolic. Like Angel Reese trying to prove something bigger than basketball itself. Prove she belongs under the spotlight. Prove she can carry pressure. Prove she can still control the conversation even when the team situation around her feels unstable. And honestly, whether people love her or criticize her, one thing is becoming impossible to deny now. Angel Reese understands attention at a completely different level than most athletes entering the league. And once an athlete understands how to control attention, that's when situations around them become way bigger than sports alone. And once an athlete reaches the point where they understand attention better than most people around them, that's when every single moment starts carrying double meaning. Because now fans stop looking at reactions as random emotions and start treating them like hidden messages. That's exactly what's happening around Angel Reese right now. Because after that huge block went viral, the internet didn't react like this was just another defensive highlight. People instantly started analyzing the energy around it like there was something deeper, hidden underneath the surface. And honestly, the timing made everything feel even more suspicious. Because the Chicago Sky were already sitting in a strange position before this game even happened. Pressure was growing. Expectations were getting louder. Fans were becoming frustrated. And every loss was creating bigger conversations online about chemistry, leadership, and whether this team actually knows what direction it wants to move in. So when Angel suddenly delivered one of the biggest moments of the game, and then social media exploded afterward, fans naturally started connecting everything together. And trust me, once fans start connecting dots emotionally, there's almost no stopping the narrative afterward. Because now people are rewatching every interaction differently. They're paying attention to who celebrates with who looks engaged, who seems frustrated, who sounds supportive publicly, and who suddenly feels emotionally disconnected from the rest of the situation. That's why this whole thing feels way bigger than a basketball game now. Because at this point, Angel Reese has become one of the biggest attention magnets in women's sports. And whether the Chicago Sky were fully prepared for that level of attention or not, the reality is everything around the organization changes once a player reaches that level of visibility. Because suddenly the team isn't just being judged by basketball anymore. They're being judged by energy, vibes, body language, social media reactions, and whether fans believe everybody inside the organization is actually aligned behind the scenes. That's a dangerous level of pressure for any team to live under consistently, especially a young team still trying to build identity. And honestly, that's why the reactions after Angel's block became so chaotic online. Because for some fans, the moment looked empowering. Like Angel Reese taking control of the spotlight again and reminding everybody why she became one of the most talked about athletes entering the WNBA in the first place. But for others, the moment felt darker. They think the viral reactions afterward exposed something uncomfortable about the relationship between Angel and the situation surrounding the Chicago Sky. Not open drama, not obvious conflict, just emotional distance. The kind that fans can sense without anybody directly saying it publicly. And once fans start sensing emotional distance inside sports situations, speculation spreads unbelievably fast, especially online. Because social media turns uncertainty into entertainment immediately. One clip becomes 10 theories. One reaction becomes a debate. One facial expression suddenly becomes proof for whatever fans already wanted to believe. And right now, the internet clearly wants to believe there's something bigger happening underneath the surface with this team. That's why even normal moments around Angel Reese suddenly feel loaded with meaning now. Because people already entered this season expecting a movie-like storyline around her career from day one. The spotlight was already massive. The pressure was already enormous. And every single game already carried expectations way bigger than basketball itself. Which means moments like this don't stay simple anymore once they go viral. They become symbols. Symbols for frustration. Symbols for leadership. Symbols for pressure. Symbols for whether a player still believes fully in the direction of the team around them. And honestly, that's why this entire situation feels so uncomfortable for some people watching it. Because deep down, fans understand the Chicago Sky are no longer operating like a normal rebuilding team under the radar. They're operating underneath national-level attention every single night now. And attention changes organizations fast. Because once fans emotionally attach themselves to players more than teams, the balance inside situations starts shifting naturally. Suddenly, every decision gets questioned based on how it affects the star. Every loss becomes a discussion about support. Every emotional moment becomes another reason for fans to wonder whether bigger frustrations are quietly building behind the scenes. And that creates enormous pressure on everybody involved, especially Angel herself. Because now every reaction she has publicly gets magnified instantly. If she celebrates loudly, people overanalyze it. If she looks serious, people overanalyze it. If she posts something online afterward, fans immediately start trying to decode hidden meaning from it. That's an exhausting environment for any athlete to live inside constantly. But at the same time, Angel Reese also understands how powerful that attention can be when controlled correctly. And that's what makes this situation feel so unpredictable moving forward. Because there are people who genuinely believe Angel is quietly learning how to use these moments to strengthen her position publicly, even while the team around her continues facing pressure. They think she understands something most young athletes don't yet. In today's sports world, controlling the narrative can become almost as important as controlling the game itself. And if that's true, then this viral moment might end up becoming way more important than people realize right now. And if this viral moment really does become bigger than people currently realize, then what happens next around Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky could completely change the way fans look at this entire season moving forward. Because right now, it honestly feels like the pressure around this situation is growing faster than anybody expected. And the craziest part? Most of that pressure isn't even coming from basketball itself anymore. It's coming from perception. Because once fans emotionally attach themselves to a player the way people have attached themselves to Angel Reese, every single thing surrounding that player starts feeling personal to them. Wins feel personal. Losses feel personal. Criticism feels personal. And moments like this huge game-saving block suddenly become emotional fuel for whatever narrative fans already believe in their heads. That's why reactions online have become so divided lately. Because one side of the internet sees Angel Reese as somebody carrying impossible expectations while still finding ways to deliver huge moments under pressure. They think she's fighting through criticism, spotlight pressure, media attention, and non-stop comparisons while still refusing to back down publicly. To those fans, this viral block wasn't just basketball. It was a statement. A reminder that Angel can still completely take over the conversation anytime she wants. But another side of the internet sees the situation completely differently. They think all this attention is starting to create dangerous pressure around the Chicago Sky organization itself. Because once a player becomes bigger than the team conversation, balance inside the environment naturally becomes harder to maintain. Fans stop focusing equally on everybody. Media starts framing situations around one central personality. And suddenly, every result feels connected directly to one person, whether that's fair or not. That creates tension fast, especially inside professional sports where chemistry already matters so much behind the scenes. And honestly, you can feel people around the league noticing it now. Because when Angel Reese entered the WNBA, she didn't arrive quietly. She arrived with one of the biggest audiences women's basketball has ever seen attached to a rookie. Millions of people already emotionally invested before she even played professionally. That changes everything for an organization overnight. Because now the team isn't only developing basketball-wise anymore. They're developing underneath a microscope. Every loss becomes national discussion. Every teammate interaction gets clipped online. Every emotional reaction becomes another headline. And once an environment starts operating under that level of attention constantly, the pressure becomes exhausting very quickly. That's why some people think this latest viral moment exposed more than fans originally realized. Because look at how quickly the conversation shifted. The Chicago Sky won the game. Angel made one of the biggest plays of the night. But instead of celebrating the team collectively, the internet instantly started debating what Angel's reactions meant emotionally afterward. That says a lot. Because normally huge defensive moments unite conversations around the team. But this moment somehow made fans focus even more on possible tension, frustration, and hidden emotions surrounding the situation. And once conversations start moving in that direction publicly, it becomes very difficult to pull them back afterward. Especially because sports fans love drama almost as much as they love winning. And social media rewards emotional storylines more than calm explanations every single time. That's why the speculation around Angel keeps growing larger. Because people don't just want highlights anymore. They want meaning attached to those highlights. They want hidden stories, hidden frustration, hidden rivalries, hidden emotions building underneath the surface. And honestly, that's exactly the type of environment Angel Reese now exists inside every day. Which means every moment from this point forward carries extra pressure attached to it automatically. Because now fans are watching for signs constantly. Signs of leadership. Signs of chemistry problems. Signs of frustration. Signs that the relationship between Angel and the Chicago Sky situation may not be as simple as people originally assumed. And whether those signs actually exist or not almost doesn't matter anymore once the internet starts building narratives around them. Because perception becomes reality online incredibly fast. One viral clip suddenly shapes how millions of people emotionally interpret future situations afterward. And right now, this block feels like one of those moments that shifted public perception around Angel Reese again. Not because of the basketball play itself, but because of everything fans started attaching to it emotionally afterward. Because now there's a growing feeling online that Angel isn't just trying to survive inside the spotlight anymore. She's learning how to dominate it. And honestly, that possibility changes everything moving forward. Because if Angel Reese reaches the point where she fully controls both the basketball conversation and the emotional narrative around her at the same time, then the Chicago Sky situation could become one of the biggest storylines in all of women's sports way faster than anybody expected. And judging by how explosive reactions already feel right now, it honestly seems like we're only watching the beginning stages of where this entire situation is eventually heading. And if we really are only watching the beginning stages of this situation, then honestly, the pressure around Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky could become way more intense than most people are prepared for right now. Because once public perception around a player starts evolving this fast, every single thing afterward becomes magnified automatically. And you can already see that happening. Because now fans aren't only reacting to what Angel does during games anymore. They're reacting to what they think her moments mean emotionally. That's a completely different level of attention. Because when an athlete reaches this point, people stop watching casually. They start searching for patterns, searching for signs, searching for hidden emotions behind every reaction and every statement. And honestly, that's why this entire situation keeps feeling heavier every single day. Not doesn't even matter anymore once the internet fully locks onto a narrative. Because once fans emotionally invest themselves into the idea that tension might exist behind the scenes, they start interpreting everything through that lens automatically. One quiet reaction suddenly feels suspicious. One emotional moment suddenly feels personal. One social media post suddenly becomes proof that something bigger is happening. And right now, people are absolutely doing that with Angel Reese, especially after the block went viral. Because for a lot of fans, that moment looked bigger than basketball itself. It looked emotional, almost personal, like somebody proving a point underneath all the pressure and criticism surrounding them. And honestly, that's why reactions afterward felt so explosive online. Because deep down, people feel like Angel Reese is fighting multiple battles at the same time right now. Not just basketball games. Expectations, media narratives, internet criticism, constant comparisons, and the non-stop pressure that comes with becoming one of the most recognizable names in women's sports before fully settling into the professional level. That's exhausting pressure for anybody, especially a young athlete carrying this much attention already. But here's where things become really interesting. Because there are also people who think this pressure is exactly what's making Angel even more powerful publicly. They think every criticism is making her bigger. Every viral debate is increasing her visibility. Every emotional reaction online is strengthening the connection between Angel and her fanbase even more. And honestly, there's evidence they might be right. Because look at what keeps happening every time her name trends. The conversations become massive instantly. Sports pages start posting nonstop. Fans argue for hours. Media personalities start giving opinions. And suddenly Angel Reese becomes one of the biggest topics in basketball again, whether people love her or hate her. That level of attention is rare, especially in women's sports. And once an athlete reaches the point where they can completely dominate public conversation this consistently, organizations around them have to adjust fast. Because now the spotlight around the player starts becoming bigger than normal team structure itself. And that can create very complicated situations behind the scenes over time, especially if results on the court don't immediately match the amount of attention surrounding the team. That's why the Chicago Sky situation feels so fragile right now. Because there's enormous visibility attached to a team still trying to figure itself out internally. And those two things don't always mix comfortably together. Sometimes massive attention accelerates growth. Sometimes it accelerates pressure. Sometimes it creates division between public expectations and internal reality. And honestly, it feels like the Sky are currently balancing somewhere in the middle of all three at once. Which is exactly why fans keep overanalyzing every emotional moment involving Angel Reese now. Because people are trying to predict where this whole thing eventually leads. Does Angel eventually become the face of a rising Chicago Sky era? Does the pressure surrounding the team become too overwhelming too quickly? Does the attention around her continue growing even bigger than the organization itself? Or does all this emotional energy eventually explode into something nobody currently expects? Those are the questions floating around social media constantly right now. And the scary part for the Chicago Sky is that once fans start asking questions like that publicly, controlling the narrative becomes almost impossible afterward. Because now every future game gets connected back to this emotional storyline automatically. Every reaction gets interpreted differently. Every loss feels heavier. Every win feels more dramatic. And every huge moment from Angel Reese instantly becomes another national-level conversation again. Which means this viral block may end up being remembered as way more than just a defensive highlight later on. Because it might have been the exact moment people realized something important about Angel Reese. She's no longer just one of the most talked about young players in basketball. She's becoming one of the most emotionally powerful figures in women's sports culture itself. And once an athlete reaches that level, everything around them changes permanently. And now you see why this situation around Angel Reese feels way bigger than just one huge block at the end of a game. Because honestly, it feels like something deeper is building around the Chicago Sky right in front of everybody, and fans can feel it. The pressure is growing. The reactions are getting louder. And every single moment around Angel Reese now feels like it carries hidden meaning attached to it. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think Angel Reese was actually sending a message after that viral moment? Or do you think the internet is completely overreacting and turning normal emotions into drama that doesn't really exist? And honestly, What do you think happens next for the Chicago Sky moving forward? Because right now, it feels like this team is sitting in one of the most intense spotlights in all of women's basketball, and every game somehow creates an even bigger conversation afterward. Drop your real thoughts in the comments because fans are seriously divided over the situation right now, and trust me, some people think this was the moment everything around Angel and the Sky officially changed. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button because it really helps push these stories out to more basketball fans who are following all the hidden tension, viral moments, and behind-the-scenes energy building around the WNBA right now. Subscribe if you want more women's basketball drama, insider-style breakdowns, viral moments, and the stories everybody else starts noticing too late. And definitely turn on notifications, because something tells me this Angel Reese situation is nowhere near finished yet.